그럼 시스 너희나 두수다 사면시라 용도. 나 나한테 다 뒤치 진이不经过 신歷사한테 두수시라 뭐도. 시송하셔서. 달라 당거라 집에 자 노버라 집에 게 달와 당 탐진 셴베 버드 주버라 제바 탐지 제소 집에 마에남 가당 냠베 셈젠 탐지 대와 당된 동거라 당지 Yordu nana mi para yang ta para zobe chang cho rinpo che cho para cha dala dang para chi ra no para chi bi ge terwa dang tam chi jen bi war tu chu para chi pa tam chi je su chi bi ma nam ka dang nyam bi sem chen Chi deva dong dien dung ra dong chi nyor tu la na mi para yang ta para so bi chang chu ren bo chi to para cha
All sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
이 지드 삼마 제제 과드 능아 이소 Gevala goro mashi bardu nunga son gevala goro tu te reine son de nyuma sanda samje bardu nunga son gevala goro.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
他们给突击小姐的宣传，现在没多对这朋友们在这种我在我的这边个小姐姐个小拉家在老多这情况，在老那罗他们没他或跑出去看工个这什么的，这边那没下这就那么一他们就用四十万的说到就情节了，我真的他对吧？他说哇，他上对吧？他这的啊，对吧？他妈的对吧？这呗，
Ringa dumpa, geba dumpa tarma songe,
对吧？差了什么的？
tamare.
嗯
Oh,
对吧？
what to shock them? What to
说的，
choose?
我平常不出去的多。
Ngosha yerwe.
Nga pinga sa le se
Oh,
se
kamla sidang tablam den.
o te
Okay.
no ten kamna de be da a dun ba ten sa de kamna tro be se ta tabla den se ta se do
Mhm.
se de ze kamna na ten ga zo tro bu le se这当中啊，他说么说切帕的说了，可惜要是那些个些的，可惜刚些个，天就愿看的，就说这出呢我啥的，我真的什么呢，什么啥当他说这些，什么可惜的，他上苏泊那个哇。这是我弄那在那啥的，在穷那你们来去投个嘛哇？你们来去下，那穷几天开的那地方，那边多些了有马蹄，我这点呢差不多，咱你们来去下，这个点过来种多。
Mhm. So now we come to verse number 7. And so we are in the 10 things which you should depend on which you should depend. And so number 7 says depend on food and methods that are in harmony with your physical constitution. So food and various methods of practice all have to no, has to agree with our not yet constitution, with how like our our individual kind of needs. And so, for example, there's some for whom and whose bodies prefer more like moisture, and some who prefer it when it's more dry. Or there's certain kinds of food that people don't agree with, and maybe they're allergic to, and that's for some eat it, and some other people are harmed by it. And so, if things don't agree with our bodies, our physical constitution, then we won't be able to practice properly. But it really refers to anything, whether it's a mundane activity or dharma activity. What we do should kind of be in harmony with our physical constitution.
我真的咱就愿看这么着吧，说说有的希望没说说那往推嘛的是，没推吧那说有的是，以前别是，但我说后别解有的，没什么去了那往什么去的是，没什么去嘛的是那往什么去的。做什么去了，然后出去了，先做什么去了，然后出去了。我别在那些事，我这里我在天桥里面的，但就那些去的差不多了吧。我真看不出别的，然后说说看不上出别什么的。我在这昨天东西过的是，昨天是初步电厂用了你们来吃下了骗给的，但初步电厂是他们你们来吃骗个嘛，今天去的看来出嘛来的，你听我说这样子初步电厂在这是开进步的意思，看的他看了谁可能出把这不明呢。啊，真的，说那电就嘛的什么的电影有嘛，我讲，他可以给传统性，特别像吃吧，让我年中，对呢，啊，抢同学嘛的，上可以抢，这说的你偏好的的，从那真的，啊，他这个嘛的，应该嘛给些节有的是，给些提当啊，穷穷讲其他同学，这讲嘛都过那些都是，我这这里讲，那穷穷讲了。
Mhm.
그
당마토구나
갭콘다 세요 사람 건데 갭콘은 사람아
어,
갭콘 생기다 정신 강한 창 통로 시장만 동는 거 나기도 없어
어.
어떻게 라브레서 어때 이제 오늘 신단 창도 이런 거 말했어 그래서 창대는 예반나 소주고리 라고로 가서 라파도 랍스 총어도 창통이야 말했어. 어전에 담마자 보면다이나 가서 창 통나지 소시 막 통고래. 그래서 통치에 자나 근데 한정도서도 수보라 토대 놓게.我长期不嘛的，听说我做这就成专门的多深度呀，面后面那个嘛，他们拿回来不了。我在深度这期的全部都在地，如果是把基本的，你看在期头票啥的哇，像这种车子的偏下来了的是，那这后这都下来是它是从，我当时做的他们那混的，真是在天空的。他可惜差不多，那么几部修下了之后，会对外进行我来不得弄一，我第一呢，第几呢？这他可惜他没多嘛头。我没得多嘛头，这里强制没得多嘛头，这别都不忙么钱的话，这里边就是其他们国家是那个的，来看其他起码头不起。我这就边这我说刚给忙在这小天就我说，我在这出出烂着呀，我这是他妈的。咱是参完那里，那才那里，强那里，我是说的，是他十几就嘛的是。
Mm. So the body, our body consists of the five elements, and whatever we take in and into this body has to agree with our elements, has to be in harmony with our elements. Because if it doesn't agree, then we will not be able to accomplish anything, whether it's a Dharma practice or a mundane activity. To give a worldly example, a Tibetan example, 30 people have 30 perceptions, or 10, no, 30, 30 zo. So a zo is like a cross of a yak, bull, and a cow. So it's a hybrid, kind of a hybrid yak. And so they call it zo. So the 30 zos have 16 horns, different kinds of horns. So the point is that we're not all the same. And however, we have a precious body, a human body that consists of the four elements. And we have to nourish this body and do what agrees, what is in harmony with this body. That refers to food or anything else that we take in. And that is because if we take in food or anything else that doesn't harmonize with our elements, that doesn't agree with our constitution, then that can it can lead to all kinds of difficulties. So there are certain things that we personally don't agree with, that we shouldn't take in, and then there are certain things that might agree with us, but we shouldn't take it in. For example, a monk, an ordained person, shouldn't drink alcohol. So alcohol might agree with them, but they still shouldn't drink it because it leads to all kinds of other faults. And there was this geisha who was actually a disciplinarian at the monastery. And he was sort of looking for an excuse for drinking, and he said that, "Oh, I'm used to drinking a little bit of beer since I'm very young. So because of that, if I don't drink it, I get a headache." But even if you say that, it's not okay because it's generally not okay for monks to drink. And there's never a real need, so it doesn't seem to be a very good argument. There's never a real need to drink something, and especially for ordained people. And so because drinking generally leads to all kinds of faults. And so it does not only actually refer to drinking alcohol. We can apply the same idea to any other substances. For example, all kinds of drugs, like smoking weed, taking other drugs, and so forth. Often people say that it's just so nice. When I take it, I feel like I'm instantly transported to a pure land. It just feels so wonderful, and it really helps with this and that. And you may have that perception, it may seem that it helps with certain things temporarily, but in the end, it always gets worse. So first, it may be very really pleasant and helpful, but later you can't be without it. You become addicted to it, and it always goes bad. And then you end up not having enough money to buy it, so then you have to go stealing. And then you won't find job, you won't have work, and so on. So it leads to all kinds of problems, and also you're really destroying your precious human body. So uh, that being said, it's still for a lay person, it's still fine to drink a little bit of beer or some alcohol. But whatever you take in, it's important that you never become intoxicated by it. So
지금라 레베트 정도와 야다 좀 저초 강나 곰스 야다 좀 저초 강 가요사 다 해마라지 강을 열어 와트라를 곰쇼스 카르스나 캄무파 상메 롱탕이스 캄테 파모 우손네 제 탭손네 저소 파 상야 액티브 와테 야다 좀 세곰자쇼스 동다 좀 로뇽 드미치 동다 좀 로뇽 드미치 센다 동다 좀 틀어제 다 총바스 조나 로모라 데 시작시 세 칼라나 세 소바 치튼로 틀치코스 09做完这张历史，我在09万写做这历史，啊，所以啊，其实我才多学是，滚到什么那边写不了多，是滚到什么他新哪写的学多学是讲，我
yeah.
滚到那把什么了，
Oh,
在新哪写不了我提的学是，新哪新有了，
mhm,
我那边写不多，那边写在弄读钱，读书不见别，吃不了人，是那弄读家学我才有了好的，我才在弄俺妈才读把吃不有两着。我真正
mhm,
那写不得学是。我在这看到吧，总有了，这看到从亚他帮了多，亚生的亚的着，亚的通不着，帮开始都亚通不着，这种我是，这农偏看假是，那农村偏看假是，现在农的吃吧，他我看他在什么农吃吧，偏看什么农都有的了，是吧？他说马家来去，这个得学是，但这，俺这看他说这样，这面头亚接，他说这有啥的话，那啥子偏向的。我真的也跟没被讲了人，是我的也跟没得讲了，总因为讲总休息，你这个就被读书面，你就往现在别从那也累些，一样的，就没做累这个，就是你们俩去休息嘛没别，我的你们通常就这样人，我的呢，说话抗穷杀休息，抗穷那是杀休息，都是穷的其他项，但都把穷的，
yeah.
我说话看着穷那是杀休息是吧？这工作是多把的是把现在吃花了啊，我这穷的大意思，我这军人不就难比吧？研究中就吃，但军天你们俩去说是研究中就吃吧，因此他们那地方在去哪，这亚的跟冬季他说这些，咱就看初亚去这工啊，这嘛的推荐，就现在的这日结我家他就去学啥了哇？
Tachadichi wajab.
我撒切结我家那他这也可以呢，看看个多了我们那些拉松，我
Mhm,
这都可以呢，说你们怎么去学些拉松，这个可
mhm,
以那么些的学农体育呀，这个人呢也得帮他学中做，
mhm. Miller Ripa said that so he broke it up into 4 seasons, and so he said that so each season being 3 months. So he said in the summer season, in the 3 months of the summer, go and meditate in the snow mountains. So these were the Himalayan mountains. Because in the heat of the summertime, being in a high and cool place like that will clear away all sluggishness and like torpor. In the fall, go around and beg for some food because you have to nourish the body of 4 elements. And in the 3 months of the winter, go and stay in the forests because the forests will protect you from windstorms. And then in the spring, the 3 months of the spring, go and stay in like high flower meadows, like high plains. Because staying in such a high plain is good for healing any illnesses related to winds, phlegm, and bile. So according to the Tibetan medicine, all diseases come down to those three: wind, phlegm, and bile. So this is the way he said to practice throughout the seasons continuously. This is the way to look after your body of 4 elements while practicing undistractedly in overcoming the 5 afflictive emotions. And he said that if you're able to sustain yourself and on anything, if you're content with anything, it's a sign of little attachment. And this is the way yogi practices continuously. And so this is how Milarepa explained the practice after four seasons. So in terms of going to different places in order to properly look after the body of 4 elements.
tene da chang tongya da chojo ka ye da dos jor so pyo do gra han dos jor so pyo nan de gres da dos jor so pyo nan de gre han ka je dos jor pyo don chang dos yin zo ram tong do si je ra se so an don de yan ten chi na ya bo yo ma res wa ten dos jor ma to de tong yu cho ma res wa 我大先就让对被车电的、慢的，我面把的慢一拿的慢电的这个，可是那个都拿啥体的上的这个话，这面把的，咱们通用的呢，慢的啥过来是我的慢，就几天可能那就开起不来是。我真的，他头浪电车，我头浪之前那他别强的，让俺那他自动特殊公样子了，自动出国是公样的是。人那他在老乡把他说自动，他说要不我呢真出来，上路跟把其他在那啥我连着，他对呢，他第一公样看来可不的是那种些，我他说是是出呀，看来可不的是对。저희 민나도 대한 자 고야 이제 매요 말했을 때 이제 어떤에 자식도 가려지나 농송나 단 점농송데 자농마지 봐 신 점농송네 그래서 점농송선 단 점농선은 틀에 나도 지금 송고 공채나 요아 농면 좀 지바 소반 줘봐 사스라 농면 지바 소반 줘봐 사스라 요他做我这才是农忙，讲农的什么二松，他怎么的上说这别强了是这马没块钱呢，单位要马松都上单位要了，我单位要他了，这这什么东东的嘛，他了是什么当，我他买一起的，这年来呢，他也说那种的是，农啊收钱不他就送那出门都用给的，是茶农他就送，所以拿啥用呀？那这没得用给的，要不得光买些呢。我这样的，我这就用的是弄这样他搞吧，你说几是我弄这样他搞那那啥说几用的是。
Mm. And so when it comes to drinking alcohol, if no, of course, if you're able to transform the alcohol into nectar, then it's okay to drink it. But then you can't say that, oh, it's nectar and drink it and then become drunk from it. So that doesn't work. So it really has to actually be nectar and you don't get actually drunk from it. So then in terms of medicine, it is also fine to take any kind of medicine if it is prescribed by your physician and if it helps you heal from something. So in that case, it is fine and important to rely on certain substances. And that's important in the Dharma and in the world. And so it is like a skillful method. And so in general, a skillful method, according to the Vajrayana, the skillful method of the Vajrayana is, for instance, the practice of the channels, winds, and drops. And so if you're a younger person, then this is a suitable practice because it's meant for such a constitution. But if you're more an older person, or if you have all kinds of like sicknesses and pains, then it's a little bit more difficult, and then it doesn't really harmonize with you. It's not really suitable for you. And in that case, you should not push yourself to practice that. And so similarly, within those practices of the winds, for example, there is this retaining of the winds practice. And in general, it is taught that there's forceful retaining of the wind where you really hold your breath. But instead of doing that, you can also practice the gentle breath. And that instruction comes actually from Jigten Sumgön, from the Gongjik. And Jigten Sumgön said that don't push yourself to hold the forceful breath. It's better to practice the gentle breath. And so practicing the gentle breath means that you are just breathing naturally. So you're inhaling, and then you're just very mindful of your inhalation. You think how the air goes down to below your navel, and then it reaches that point where the three channels converge, and then you think it's there. And then you just stay there and you keep following it without any distraction. And that's actually the best practice. It's actually better not to practice that forceful retaining of the winds, because that is often not suitable. And actually, if done improperly, it can lead to all kinds of sicknesses and all kinds of other problems.
真的，我这干嘛把人用做这种的是，麻将为我嘛就分别做了那把七八叉，是他弄天我强嘛做这我从家讲呢，做了眼看的学的种的话，就当我做这弄从的对，但你对别家怎么我们他这呢，可以长龙题我从对真的前面一从了，他对就能这里那样，他对有的这别想那有的话。
真的。
这那参照我大体弄就是在穷穷的说那就用着学啥的话晓得，这个那参照说那呀，他就有的是三名的在群，他三名把刚做到的嘛，他说弄学习不光呢，他就过了中个玩意的。
Then the Karma Bao Rangjung Dorje had said that if you try to have the impure winds, so the winds that have not been purified, if you make them enter into the central channel, it could actually constitute a danger to your life. You actually could risk your life by doing that. And for example, there are some people who practice Tummo, and now in the Tummo practice, there's a practice where you hold the winds very forcefully, but then that doesn't come without any risk, because if you hold the wind very forcefully and the mind is distracted while you do that, then the wind enters into all those like subtle channels and can lead to all kinds of diseases, like even leprosy. And so in order for one to practice Dumo properly, one actually must have a very strong, undistracted mind.
真的他这种的，这些我年米他好格局，我恐怕忙不下去，咱们弄堂吃三十年光把心头你接受，但这是开钱不的，是俺做这方面呢，他让公平中多，俺现在没去了，他对吧？他每人怎么弄，他公平中多啊，我他忙起这个面啊，咱们弄特别开钱不，俺那做我们呢。我听他格局恐怕是这个工的是敲着心不是，敲着心不是现在做听俺那说，农民把他钱，但买人把钱他做的奇怪，这买人呢他敲着心不的。我这样绿天那买人把钱呢，这身体讲了，下的那他钱他别送钱呢，他光过去的是，那些是，我他等于在光他们车人嘛，他你没把说朋友钱不有的是，就弄那什么的就给。我这点呢，在弄他说这绿头人就看他说的偏给的，我说他就在我们家的呢，做我等下说南跑去让车头去嘛，我说那啥的东啊，我这南跑忙不正车，从对天呢我这就从这呢这那啥我这用过了，这我们在家先这在那车送那这呢，我说的现在那偏给的，这个人呢这样就那这那啥他说这啥个嘞？thì long del den zai jam long tu song du chu je gre ko so me ka zai je chin chu je ngre te ni yon te je gre es nyor yon te nyor bo es long jong tu jong ma es wa te ni te ti se ke chen bo es.
And so this is how the past Kagyu masters of the Dakpo Kagyu and so forth have practiced. They have practiced the gentle breath and have through that merged with Mahamudra. And so for example, Ruben's retreat master, this is what he had practiced. And this is also what Garland Rinpoche always says we should practice. He always says, just visualize the fire flame at the navel. And so then this is just through this, we mix our mind with Mahamudra. And so the main point is to have a focused, undistracted mind. That is what's most important when practicing the gentle winds. And this practice will also lead to a longer life and fewer illnesses, good health. There are many, many benefits that come from practicing the gentle breathing by holding the winds gently. And um, mm, so by holding the winds forcefully, generally qualities can arise quickly. However, there's a great danger that it can lead to a lot of faults. And so therefore, it's better for us to practice the gentle winds, and actually also by just, if you focus single-pointedly, and for example, you practice the forceful winds, and then there's all kinds of thoughts in the mind, and then these thoughts, it is these thoughts and the winds, now that steer the thoughts like are steering winds in your channels. They create all kinds of disease and illness. If you're able to meditate single-pointedly, that is what will be good for your health, for your longevity, and having fewer illnesses. And also, if you practice the gentle winds, heat can arise from that as well if you focus single-pointedly. And not many faults are likely to arise. So this practice is quite important. So.
근데 다 제바들이 다 냠나 편배 추상 조람 댄스 다 냠나의 편약 초이나를 냠나다 도상고 좀 냠나 같이나 대견 편약 초이나를 더 초선 소소단 초 냠나 시비 편도를 냠나 치고 그래서 어떻게 하나 조람 소소라 냠나 치고 더 조람 소소라 제 디사 아나서 쳔바 마예와 치 냠나 치 통나 여고를 연이 손들 때는 바로 연도 그러지 강투도 제 마예와 치네 어떤 냠나 치고 그래서 어다 농종이 칸 펜바 상화된 거 마마지 대 샘을 펜하더래 다르다 종기 펜하 조남된 거서 랍송다다 샘을 펜하더래 안세 치고 그래서 그래서는 소바를 삼바를 군바를 냠노 카레나데 어다 펜베 초스슈야 다 초스슈야 소 치고 조남된 거래서 어다 배창다 다 이나다 초호이나다 아제이나다 가서 치파티 소래 파탄바 상제 팅리제사세 팅리센 사치메로 팅리제사세 배샤제요로 팅리제사세 티나 커선 초상 때는 요새 쇼란자 기베 2년 된게 팅리와스 초 상보 때는 요새 인고 그래서 어때 초 상보 때는 게 팅리와스 팅리센 사자제 메로 사자들아 되냐 맞서 랍쇼사라와 팅리센 사자제로 말아리 바티 팅리 좀 한번 펴도 팅리센이야 또 사자제로 대치는 종야되나 종야 쇼라 뭐 대표 초보 봉시听着 왔을 초년 받되나 저방년 받으라 이거 그래서 텐데 대표 초보 바 봉시 听着 왔어 저 정도 되는 거라서 초에 나를 대나들이 저 뒤에서 제바로 그래서
And then we come to the next verse, verse number 8. Depend on spiritual practices and behavior that help your experience. So the previous verse was about how to tend to our physical bodies. And now this verse is about the mind, what we can do to look after our mind. And so to look after our mind, and we practice the Dharma, we listen, we reflect, and we meditate, we gain an experience in Dharma practice. And we do whatever is beneficial in our day-to-day conduct. And we stay without distraction in our day-to-day conduct. So normally we are always distracted in whatever we do. So you should try to to not be distracted all the time. So this is what will benefit our mind. And so, for example, there's an example given here about relying on companions. And Padampa Sangya had said when he was in Tingri, there's a text called the Tingri Gyatsa. So Tingri is a place in Upper Tibet where Milarepa also had practiced. And so Padampa Sangya spoke to the people of Tingri. And he said that, so people of Tingri, when you rely on friends, when you follow a companion, when you follow a good companion, a good friend, then good qualities will come from that. However, if you associate with evil companions, they will influence you. So therefore, abandon this negative influence, people from Tingri. And so he also kind of highlighted that it does make quite a difference with what kind of person we associate with. So,
tene da nga zu da tosam gomsong chi be chang da tosam gomsong da chi kyong da zhen da xiu na be cha da to chi ga gang na re da jiao lam te tosam lom ye dan zhuo dou ne zhuo dou kan da dou da guo re se ji dong ji zui ma la re te zong ru ke zong ru se na sim jian le pen xin dou na this part then the depend number da dou na sim jian pen to xi da na ri re se 개별 넘버 도나 심지어 놓시다나 더 맞이는 되겠어. 어때 정도와 어떤 줄이 되네 조선으로 냐시리다 초원로도 뭐도 초원로도 뭐도 좀 나고 소소다 가지다 초원로 그래 가지고 냠냐 지나 돼 가리나 돼 어떻게 돼 고함냠냐 지나 편배 치라서다 쇼 배차스다나 돼 배차돼 가지 소소 샘프로 효요래 야 다는 효원도 좀 소소소 예체제 거야 어 배차텐도 틀려 용거와 가시 다다 디시나 다 생망보다 디 생마고 내가 그렇게 가고 디시는 거로 텐류리 어때 퇴소래 조남도 두고래 퇴소는 하다 자냠나치도 컨트롤도 제 마냥 와치고 그래서 어때네 제 뇌파메래 다 자제치는 조남도 말아래 반응으로 자제는 뭐지나 몸도活动 돼야지 셰효사라 봐
디카르?
活动呀 this
네.
컴페어야 나活动在
음. And so we have to practice whatever is kind of conducive, whatever benefits our practice. And so, for example, we read certain books, scriptures, or you engage in certain activities that are beneficial. So we have to use some discernment here. Milarepa said that if an activity benefits sentient beings, even if it looks like a negative action, it is still fine, okay to do it. But if something looks good and virtuous, but actually it harms others, it's better not to do it. So you have to discern, see for yourself, is an activity, a certain thing helpful or not? And so the same for your practice. Is something beneficial? For example, a certain teaching or reading a certain book. Some people, when they read a certain book, they feel very inspired and they develop a lot of trust by just reading it. And then when they read other books, it just feels really difficult. It's very long. They don't understand anything. And then that's not very helpful. So our Dharma activities also need to kind of harmonize with the time we have available and the situation, the context that we find ourselves in. But the most important point is to be undistracted in whatever you do. And so this kind of becomes your stepping stone to a conduct that becomes effortless, like Milarepa's conduct.
다음에 이제 디난테는 냠토야 페르게스 다 마음본로나 디사 안디시 안 네제시티 삼삼 디스나 봐 삼삼 다 네데 디나 자당제야 디사 용거로 다 만다스요 데스 다 되지 어ත네 가지고 고마서 다 람도르스 덴도르스 어다 람도르스 고네시나 말에 덴도르 와 레총 말아레파 레총 송도 와 주 지난 배자 야가 송 말을 주 배자 망고 스키디도스. 예 저런 검chen 된도스 신을 레바 보선 주 동chen 함도스 차라래 그냥 칸도스. 검chen 된도스는 다 대한 마 페이로야. 검jam나 대한 페이토비야. 그 동chen 함도스는 로히디디 마 페이로 그러 로히디나. 我真真的晓得，我这里我在南大是讲过的是，我就是没来这把给这种的，他相当于都目前电动是吧？我他就别讲忙忙，他你忙不给的，这些东西他们都是讲了啥的意思那个这种是吧？就当的这种的就是没来这些饿了蛮着在忙不中的，这咱光不着急的，这没来的吧？他拼命，他就先别看人家嘛，这把当下的。 어제 울 sonde tere ta marka ula ta marbe loma suton wange yora ul ta ne su mambo yora ta nge suton wange te ko se yo marbe loma suton wange se ta ka chen hi cha je wa ka chen she yora ti nam ze suton wange la wa tor ka te tra suton wange te je chung je do wa
Sutim.
suton ba
Oh, Sudan.
wange se do wanga de me
Oh, Wange.
te je chung je do wa 小这种绝对他我他妈那老子学啥来种，小这呀，他我跑马尾，别人那路那小的普拉哈的，他妈他妈那有是，别人那路登上了秋裤就得穷活过，
Kongati Kyokchari.
别人那路去马巴拉，普拉哈里拉，讲普拉哈拉个啦，我知道了，登上了秋裤就得穷活过的是，看嘛多少，他不留了多好了，我看了农裤就得。 총걸 거레스 오칸라 그렇게 주대 총걸 거레스 티사 담아 참아 나로 스티처럼 나고 슬라도 데레 총이야지 데 코니 데디 냠 디오사 데 롱다 송제 치요사로 데 멜라레바 dor도 추추는 마도 야 단데라레베 제 노래 좀 샤다 데
Miller Repacaramido.
멜라레바 도리아 춘 마도 냠나서 파테디 디고라 멜라레바 야 노거바 晓得呢，这种那样的位置，我晓得日子多，俺去这里修修些拉双子，俺们修就有些拉双子的，但俺别些也干的，是马拉，那用马的，马拉人这个，那么马拉去那这些嘛都，那么马拉那里的有日子拉多少，人这个嘛的，是过俺们这波时的，我说啊，在没有过的，俺这是俺们往东东嘛，现在这个么都中多。 这下大家拉过也可是这种咱没来这盘中，全嘛都咱们没来这盘的一些就多多的。
And so when it is said that when we rely on an isolated place for practice, our experience and realization increase. But then on the other hand, if we stay there for too long or we go there too much, sometimes it may happen that we also develop attachment to that place. So it's all different kinds of scenarios. And so the past Kagyu masters, so they have said that that's how they say the Hlamdol Dong Dendrol kind of Gyogoriti.
个换配送的，他恐怕忙不讲，换配路个了，换体力配路个了哇。电多人的呢，听说电配路个的。
So there's this, yeah. There's this again, Tibetan is just like a really short word, but it's I don't know how to say it short. So it's basically literally like either you're someone who bursts their shoe open, or you're someone who bursts the teachings open. And so what that means is that someone who just wanders around and goes here and there traveling, all they do is just bursting their shoes open. When actually they should just sit there and practice and burst through, break through the Dharma, not break through the shoes. And so there was this story about Milarepa and Rejungpa, because Rejungpa, he wanted to go to to central Tibet and to bring back teachings, and Milarepa didn't want him to go. India. So he wanted to go to India to bring back those texts. Yeah, he wasn't in central Tibet, and he wanted to go, but Milarepa didn't want to let him go. He ended up letting him go. But that's what Milarepa basically told him. My hope for you was to break through the Dharma teachings instead of breaking through your shoes by wandering around. And also, Marpa had four main disciples. They're called the Four Pillars. And one of them was Turtun Wange, and he was one of Marpa's main disciples. And Rejungba went to see him also to receive some teachings from him. And so he said, can you give me some teachings? And then Turtun Wange said that, of course, I have all the teachings that Marpa himself had received from Naropa and Pulahari. I have all the Dharmakaya teachings, like which are like in a high, from a high, like the highest like floor in a building. And then I have the Sambhogakaya teachings from the middle floor. And then I have the Nirmanakaya teachings, set of teachings from the lower floor. And I've all the teachings that Marpa had received from Naropa. And then Rijungpa said, well, can you give them to me? And he said that, yes, sure, I can. So then they stayed there for some time, and he was reciting the text and giving some transmission and so on. And so then Rijungpa started to wonder, like, how is it that Milarepa it just sits there like completely still, and nothing kind of breaks him. He breaks through the Dharma, but nothing breaks him. And what's happening here? You're just basically talking. And then Tudun Wang said that, of course, I'm not like Milarepa. I know the scriptures really well. I'm a great scholar. I have to say some things that will impress you. This is how it goes. With scholars. I'm not the same as Milarepa. And so when he heard him talking like that, Rajungpa then really developed a lot of devotion in Milarepa, and he thought there's really no one like Milarepa.
tene ta te zong zo nyam la ma phe na chu sam mo she main zam ja na ti ke dian be cho sam che gom do ta gom be sin ta ni ring ne so cham ba ma ro so ta za nyam phe me da na sha ra chu sam mo yin ze na te ras de ke chim bo ma re si da nyam phe do me na be chang da xiang sam sam ten du yong do wa so ta ze nyam ne chi de du be cha sta yin zi xie xiu de chun北家在大街上搞的看会，我们讲这现在这你可以没把吃的人看多噻，怕进来这多的噻。他北家这是当然这个在娘俩区别那看成的那，忙不在大提纲娘俩才写啥去嘛多，北家写啥嘛写话去，但人这个做日本一些人不去空中个的，但是可你可以没得下来是说着啥个娘俩去搞哪去搞的娘俩去的，这种多这人的挺多多。다음에 제스 대고 곰다 냠네 냠토 펜베 삼텐 대반도 소다 삼텐 대한테도 대고 어떤 야보도 고레스타 대땡아 도곰 잡대 대한 대반도 답거라 마데나 루셈신에 소냠토 메시스 루 대고 자도 대고 히라미나 되네 한테 제가 말했대 디선 자신 뭐 도다 마데데라 지선 용거와 어때리도 어때 요남도 다 양대 sabza 치고레스 어때는 같이 두고 쉬어제 제거 말았어. 같이 쉬어제 지나 수포케 디서 마페나 수포제 저거 차 대루지나 냠나야 고 치토고 말해. 지당에 마다 말아래 받아서 쉬어 치토거든. 생각이 가서 요 말받아다. 심표 대루 메두세 존주세 소 메두세 치토고 말해. 나 당가서 수포터로 라지 스토테데 에지 같이 두고 쉬다지 마. 지전 송송 말해. 지당 디做我的开始是那个当初日出康出这样在进步高头进步去其他的哪怕上级买的是七老八了才有的是那做我的哪怕上级开始上级就没得下面用是对这个让下面用是我的下面对他们那么看对下的我曾经点过去的是别人的功能两把就那都这几种来说那几种忙不接呀那几种可以加图个买的挺上我自己家马桶那里的 곱창나 원디 또 등아도 좀람 가려야 되나 지금 곰 냠내 펜시다나 좀람 강소 강대인데 지난 되게 강대인 시대 와 들으치나 제 개침부레스
And so if something, if a certain practice or dharma is not really beneficial for your practice, then there's no point in saying, oh, it's a very profound dharma. It won't be of benefit to you if it's not suitable for you. And so also when you practice, it is good to focus on the practice. So often what people do when they under retreat or when they practice is that they do some meditation and then they get tired of it and then they read a book and then they get tired of that and then they come back to meditation. And in the end, they're not getting really good at any of it because they just keep flipping back and forth. And actually, this flipping back and forth becomes an obstacle to the practice. Of course, it's fine to do some reading, but if you do too much of it, then actually you end up not really becoming a scholar, but also you end up not actually practicing. And so Drupal's retreat master, Drupal Yeshe Rinpoche, he said that then you end up with nothing. You have no learning and you have no practice. So therefore, he said, just practice. And so then when you practice, when you meditate, it is also important that your place of meditation is comfortable, that you're physically comfortable. If you're uncomfortable, you cannot develop a meditative state, a meditative concentration. Because if you have constant aches and pains, you just can't focus on the practice. And you should therefore not put yourself through too much hardship. If you put your body through too much hardship, then it will lead to poor health. And then again, you can't really practice. And so nowadays, it's hard to be like Milarepa. And we just don't have that kind of courage, determination, and diligence that Milarepa had. And it's important to have good health in order to practice from where we are at. And Jigten Sumgön had said that practicing enduring hardship is not something unique to Buddhist practice. Many non-Buddhist practices also put their body through all kinds of hardships. What's the real main focus of Buddhist practice is, as the Buddha had said, tame your own mind. And there are many different methods for taming our mind, and we have to use whichever method works the best for us. And for example, when it comes to coming back to feeling physically comfortable, it may be said that we have to sit in a cross-legged posture, but some people nowadays that's difficult for them. They can't be in a cross-legged posture, and then if that's not possible, then that's fine. You don't have to do it. You can sit in a chair. It's most important to be comfortable because that is what will help you practice. So it's important to do whatever benefits your practice the most. Hello? Ruben?